Welcome to this episode of Sunny Silver Linings. On this episode, Sunny's guest is Joe Alapat, founder and CEO of Liongard. Joe is a serial entrepreneur in the information technology services industry. His background includes over 2 decades of experience in managing critical infrastructure as the owner of an IT managed service provider he owned and operated and sold. Following his exit, Joe founded Liongard, one of the fastest growing companies in the IT channel today. Joe is a graduate of Trinity University with a bachelor's in computer science and is a certified information system security professional. And now, your host, the founder and CEO of IT by Design, Mr. Sunny Kaila. Sunny, take it away.
Thank you, Todd. And Joe, welcome to our show.
Thank
good
you,
to
Sunny.
see you today, man.
It's good to see you and Todd both. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you for taking the time to join us today.
So, Joe, Liongard and IT by Design are both in hypergrowth mode. What role has culture played in the rapid growth?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of folks are experiencing growth, and one of the things that we saw as a pattern for this, and running my previous MSP, I had lessons learned. So when we started things off early at Liongard, I realized early on that we needed to be able to think about bringing on talent that would basically far outweigh my personal capabilities. I'm a type A personality, and there's a lot of things that I wanted to get done. And something that I learned from our previous business is bring the right folks in, let them really take ownership of those areas, and then grow it. And our early team was awesome. And what we ran into early on was that we had a couple of hires that we struggled with, and we didn't know why. We were like, why did, we were doing so well. We hired a bunch of folks and we struggled with 1 or 2. And it really forced us to do a reevaluation of how we think about, our building of the team, how we think about recruiting, and looked inwardly and really arrived at, a concept that many people know about, which is core values. And to really, have ourselves write those things down and really brainstorm internally about what's important to us. And I really credit a lot of our growth and a lot of, the feedback I get about our team, which is positive, and it usually embodies the fact that these folks are representatives of our core values. And, they align with what we think is important. And so that's really what's been a big part of our growth, is just thinking about our culture and hiring that way, and also reinforcing that along the way. When we run into struggles, we always point back to those core values and go, okay, are we doing X? And oh, great job. You did Y. That's awesome. This aligns with our culture. And so it really comes down to beating that drum constantly. So it's a big part of our getting to success. And it's a journey, right? So for us, we're hitting milestones, and we want to keep moving.
Thank you. And Sunny, IT by Design, also hypergrowth. You've grown the company from, just yourself and Cam up to almost 500 people today. What role has culture played there in supporting, getting the right individuals to support that hypergrowth?
That's the key. That's the key. That's the only way. So that's the only way to grow, because if you don't have your culture right, you will not be able to build that dream team that is required for 10x growth, for that hyper growth. The only way is to surround yourself with good people that are smarter than you are. And what Joe was talking about earlier, that having, that type A personality and then it's your number one thing as a leader needs to be to build a team around you based on the core values. But in order to build a team with the core values, you have to define your core values. So at IT by Design, it played a huge role, and we had to, we had to always hire and reward people based on the core values.
Joe, obviously, everybody knows, people in the IT channel by and large know the Liongard name, and you've recruited quite a few high profile names, with Mark and Adam coming over. What role has culture played in your recruiting and being able to attract those true A players?
Yeah, so an approach that we've used is really first bringing on folks as advisors. So Adam, for instance, was an advisor of ours for half a year before he really came on board. For us, it's really surrounding ourselves with folks that do embody that the culture that we have. And the first core value that we have is listen and learn, and that's something that I observe in people the first time I meet them, is to understand how much they're listening, how much they're learning. Are they absorbing that from the other person? Are they humble listeners? Or are they bringing their ego to play? And that's something that we really focus in on when we bring on team members, is to think about, are they listening and learning? And, from there, it goes to, our 5 core values are then, from listen and learn to adapt and automate. We're an automation company, but you listen and learn, and then you start adapting your behaviors from that learning. And, it's okay to stumble. But from all of this, you really want to move to a process by which there's this constant improvement. And then really the heart of our core values is executing as a team. And that means that we all have to row in the same direction. So I always think about, how can you take the team and point them at one single point? And if you take a bunch of outperformers and they're all pulling in different directions, they will not perform as well as any other team that fixates on one goal. So that's why we think about executing as a team as really being the heart of our core values. And then to follow that up, it's to focus on visible progress. You focus on a point. How do you keep iterating and show visible progress? Not go after some massive iceberg, but figure out how you can keep etching away at that iceberg, and then find your path. And show that visibly outward, whether it's to our partners and the industry or our peers. Within our own company. And then the final core value is to teach. So you'll notice ours is kind of cyclic, because listen and learn was the first one and teaching is the last one. And so we go back again. And so we have a big focus around internal teaching as well as teaching externally. It's a big part of why I enjoy attending sessions like this with Sunny and you, Todd, to be able to share information that we have and also learn from you all.
And Sunny, I know, as I was interviewing with you, I walked in the office and I saw the core values up on the wall, rather. What role has culture and the core values played as you attracted your leadership team and then down, through the following layers, especially with such a, diverse group, with offices literally around the globe?
Yeah. So, it's so important, right? So it's so important for any company where they need to have growth and sustainable growth, that long-lasting success, to first start with why. Start with your mission, right? So mission is, what exactly is the reason? Why do you exist as a company? And then you need to look at your vision, where you are going. You have to define that. So vision is more of where, right? And then core values is how. So once you have your mission, which is why, and your vision, which is what needs to be accomplished, and then how, which is core values, then you are defining your culture in terms of what good looks like with the culture. That makes it easier for you to go out there and see, okay, now who is going to buy into my mission and vision, and who has the core values alignment to be part of my team. And if you are intentional about hiring, promoting, retaining, offboarding people based on their culture, and that is the key to success. That is the key to sustainable growth.
Joe, one of the key features to support hypergrowth is bringing in the right leaders. What are the traits that you look for when you're bringing in your leaders to support the growth that you're going through at Liongard?
Well, when it comes to the leadership side, we've already discussed it. It doesn't matter where you are in the organization, you better have alignment around those core values. There's no exceptions, So even if you are the most expert at this arena, at this area, this area that we're looking to fill, if you don't align with the core values, it's just boom, you bounce off, and we don't continue those discussions just because it just goes down the wrong path. And so, with that in mind, past the core values, it's about does this person want this role? Do they are they excited about this role? Do they get it? And are they the best fit for that role? And so for us, when we think about bringing leaders into the team that are experts far beyond our own capabilities. We're not looking for folks that just go off and execute on a plan that I have. We're looking for folks that are actually going to join the team and provide something net new that goes far beyond our capabilities. This is why we have Adam on our team as Chief Revenue Officer. We have Josh as our Chief Financial Officer, Vincent, my co-founder, who's involved with the product and the operations side, and really all of the other leaders that early on that were part of the small team and then have risen to the occasion and are now leading and managing teams. That's been that part of the process. So they the expectation is that they're the expert in their arena and that they could go much further than anybody else in that area, and that they're enjoying doing it, right? That they're in the zone. Because if it's work, it's just it's really not going to be fulfilling for them. They're not going to end up really making the strides that they're looking for. So I'm always looking and looking for that to understand, are people in the zone? Are they are the team members really enjoying what they're doing? And sometimes we find that we need to we want to move somebody somewhere else in the organization. So we've done that in a lot of places where team members have moved on to other spots within the team and found a new home, and where they can flex what they're really good at.
And how do you interview for, a lot of times people are like, culture is such a, it's a touchy feely, it's not a numbers type thing. How do you interview for, to make sure they're a good culture fit over?
Oh, that's part of the secret sauce. I can't tell you, Todd, now. But the real, I think the best way to do it is asking, inadvertent questions and observing behaviors during the interview process. What I like to say is that you magnify anything that you experience during the interview process about 10 times, and imagine that personality magnified. If they show up on time and they're present, if they're late, if they say certain things a certain way, magnify that, and you'll generally get an experience of what they're going to be like in person. It's about 9 times out of 10 I've seen that. And so during that process, we have our core values, and we actually rate, how that individual is ranking against those core values. And multiple people go through that process. And it's done through these inadvertent questions where for teach, we will ask the individual, tell me something that, you're an expert at, and teach it to me like I'm a 4th grader. And it's very open-ended. Doesn't have to be technical. It's just anything. I've had candidates talk to me about rebuilding cars to something very, very technical, and it's awesome to hear how they explain. And you can just you kind of get a feel for it, and okay, this person's got it. They could sync up with our team, and you get this feeling.
And Sunny, same questions over to you. What specific traits do you look for, related to culture in your leaders as you're interviewing, and how do you interview for them?
Yeah, so we start with the core values. Our core values, Todd, as you know, is happy. And happy is an easy way to remember. H is for humility, and then A is for accountability, then P is for passion, the second P is for positivity, and then Y is for your community. And we start with the humility, and we do look at that mantra of Patrick Lencioni of humble, hungry, smart, and we start with humility. And one thing that I always love doing is, especially if it's a leadership position, take the person to lunch and see how that person is treating the person who is serving in the restaurant. If I do see that humility, then that means during that lunch interaction and how that person is not only talking to me and interacting with me, but how that person is interacting with people who are serving in the restaurant. And for example, right? So that's how we take some creative, we use some creative ways to evaluate evaluate our new hires, new applicants on core values. And the most important thing is for us to make sure that that person is going to be a good fit in our community that we are building. Because even if you have 1 or 2 leaders where they're not well aligned with the core values, they're going to create a group within their function or sub-function that they're leading. It's going to be a totally they're not going to be able to give that experience that we want every single team member at ITBD to have. And that creates a big issue if a leader who's leading is not living those core values. So we are always very intentional, especially for LMA roles, lead manage accountability roles, managerial roles, leadership roles, that people, we are very serious about the core values and make sure that we constantly beat that drum during our morning coffee sessions to all these quarterly banquet sessions that we do, recognition reward sessions that we do, any opportunity that we get through email communication, through town halls, we always lead with core values.
Sunny, I love what you're talking about, beating the drum, and it's, you can't say it enough. And you just have this kind of a spiel as a leader that, you go through and you just talk about it. And for me, what I've found is that we really have to, find an occasion when we see some behavior that matches one of those core values and call it out and say, hey, that's awesome. That's executing as a team. And what I love to see is team members actually using those terms. And, they're saying, hey, I don't think, we're making visible progress here, or I don't think that we're executing as a team here, because what we do need to be honest about it. And we need to call out where we start to go off, base and try to course correct. So I love that. And I loved your comment about, seeing how candidates treat other people. When we were in a normal office setting, I love that concept, right? It's like, what do they do in the front office area? How do they treat somebody at a coffee shop if you're grabbing coffee? It's those little interactions that you do want to magnify because you really understand who that person is. So totally relate to what you're saying.
Absolutely. And Joe, as you know, you have to say the same thing 7 times, 7 different times, 7 different ways, using all these different communication channels, whatever you're using in the company. Then people listen it only once. And what we do here is every week we pick a theme. Like this week is humility being the core value. So when we have our morning coffee with community session at 7:45, it's 10-15 minutes, we get on a call and we talk about, we recognize, we reward people based on the core value of the week. So it's always, so with the 5 core values that we have, we pick one for the week during our weekly L10. So we use EOS, a weekly rhythm that we have, or morning huddle that we have. Every single leader will talk about that one core value in that week. And then the next week we pick the second one. So there's, you got to be always talking about your core values in order for people to live and at least be intentional about wherever they are to improve in that area. In order for them to be aware and be better every single day in that area, you need to continue to talk about that.
That's awesome. I like the concept of themes happening, on a weekly basis, and then the fact that you have an acronym, you get bonus points for that. I couldn't get there.
Yeah, it's a funny story. This February, we were with our partners. So about 25 MSP CEOs were with us, and we took them to India for India retreat. And It was Keith from a couple of gurus who was sitting right next to me in the bus, and we started talking about same, core values topic. And he's like, Sunny, how can we come up with something that is easy for us to kind of remember core values, and where we can kind of give something to our teams? And we started having this exercise, and I remember exactly, we were going from New Delhi to Agra to see Taj Mahal, and we were in the bus sitting right next to each other, and we started brainstorming on my IT by Design's core values and a couple of Guru's core values. And I'm like, let me just kind of, and he's a pilot, he's learning, and I think in his pilot course, and they have to come up with these acronyms to remember, because when something happens, they need that acronym to kick in. And he was kind of more educated on that, and we started doing this exercise. He came up with his acronym. I came up with my acronym, and when I came back and shared that with our marketing team, they're like, "Wow, this sounds awesome!" So from February of this year, we started using HAPPY as an acronym to easily remember our core values.
Okay. I love it. That's awesome.
Thank you for taking the time to watch part 1 of our 2-part series with Joe Alapat of Liongard. Hope you're taking away a couple of golden nuggets that you can implement into your business. If part 2 has already been released, the link will be down in the video description. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And we'll see you again real soon. Thank you.